vampires do not belong in the waking world.
The Sandman is in charge of the balance in the world through their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But in the series, we can see that your character has several fears about the real world. Which of them do you think you share with the Master of Dreams?
I think that's a great question. I think that there's a reason why. So dream is responsible for the collective unconsciousness of the universe, of every living being. But there's a reason why I think he spends a lot of his time focused on humanity. It's because humanity has the capability of destroying everything. And his fear is the potential for catastrophe. And also, I mean, and I am unfortunately a mere mortal, so I don't know for sure, but human beings are the only creatures that I know of who explore their subconscious, who write about their dreams, who write poems and songs and books and make films and tell stories about them. And therefore I think that he has an affinity with them because he too thinks so deeply about dreams. And he knows that therefore within their dreams, the capabilities they have of kind of destroying not only their world, but other worlds.
I am the king of dreams, ruler of the nightmare realm.
Gwendolyn, your character is the most feared character for those of us who believe in heaven and hell in real life. However, Lucifer is a highly intelligent and respected woman. What do you like the most about playing this character in The Sandman?
I really wanted this opportunity. I really wanted to do this. I felt that at this point of where we are in our world, on our planet, there is such a lot to be said about what evil is and what that might mean to me. And the idea of playing this fallen angel who is so disenchanted by life, has so much shame, such an inability to connect, is isolated from the rest of the world and has to exist only as a ruler inflicting pain on people. I couldn't see what there was not to like about playing that. So it was a fabulous opportunity for me. It's unlike anything I've played before. And I really felt extremely privileged that Neil Gaiman and Alan Heinberg could see that in me. They could see that I was capable of it. And it was a glorious collaboration.
Tell us, what power have dreams in hell?
Kirby, something that is said in the series, and it's true, is we are very afraid of death. However, your character is illustrated as a noble person who helps people when their time is up. Has playing death changed your perception of death in some way?
Yeah, definitely, because you don't get a role like death and just sort of learn your lines and show up to work. You know, it's a role that you take a lot of time to sit with. You have to do research, you read, and I think that most people spend an incredible amount of time actively ignoring or trying not to think about death because it is so painful and you know, sort of world-shattering. But it was really interesting to go the other way and really have to delve into it and have to look at not only death itself, but the way we treat death and the way different cultures treat death and the afterlife and things like that. And so to me, it was really eye-opening to just see so many different global interpretations of death and this concept that has been around since the beginning of time. I mean, death is only here because there is life. So there's endless sources, endless material.
We will achieve what no one has even attempted. We will summon and imprison death.
In The Sandman, we see several mythological and even religious characters that are illustrated in a way that we could not expect. Neil, do you remember what was your biggest inspiration about giving a personality to each of your characters?
I think the biggest inspiration at the time was always, can I make something that nobody has seen before? If I'm going to make death a person, I don't want to do a death who is cold and distant. I don't want to do a death who's a skeleton or pale seventh seal death. I want to do a death that I would like to meet when I die, who will say, you know, you really should have looked both ways before crossing that street. But she'll be nice about it, and I'll love her, and I'll love spending time, and it will make up for having just been hit by a car. And that's the death that I want.
Alan, you have made it really clear that you stuck as closely as you could to the comics created by Mr. Gaiman. So my question is, what do you think was the most difficult part of making the world of the Master of Dreams real?
The most difficult part was finding Tom, which was actually the easiest because he was one of the first people that we saw. But coming into the project, I really worried about, are we going to be able to find him? Because if you don't have him, you don't have a show, you don't have anything. So once we had Tom, Tom grounded the entire enterprise in such a profound way that every decision we made creatively after that happened very organically because we knew what the heart of this show looked like and sounded like and felt like, and after that everything else was relatively easy and felt very natural.
Forgive me, sire, the palace, the realm. They are not as you left them.
Vivian, your character in The Sandman is very different physically from the ones we see in the comics, starting with the gender. What was your first thought you had when you found out you will play Lucienne?
I was very excited to get this role. I auditioned for it, I was cast. So for me, it was just a thrilling thing that I was going to be part of this incredible world from these comics that have been adapted for TV for 2022. So I just took the lead of Neil and Alan and just immersed myself in it and was very excited about the experience that was to come ahead.
And crumble.
Speaking of characters, could you guys tell us how you got Mark Hamill to lend his voice to Mervyn Pumpkinhead?
Well, we're again really lucky that Mark loves comics and loves pop culture, and we asked him and he said yes. He was our first, I remember just talking with Alan about who we want and what kind of voice Merv would have. And, the only other person I could imagine that we would have gone to for Merv would have been Patton Oswalt, and we'd already cast Patton as Matthew, so we had to go to Mark.
What are you doing here, Etty?
He's coming, isn't he? You.
Morpheus. The Neuromancer.
Now, in the case of Jenna, your character faces the demons on Earth and does it as if there were a common job. Mm-hmm. What characteristic of you, Anna, do you admire the most and why?
I think probably that ability to hold everything together. Like it's this huge weight and cost, and there's a lot of, I think she's very much like a wounded soldier, and it's all about being kind of keeping the armor and keeping everyone far away. But obviously the one place where she can never escape is in her dreams, where she is actually tortured and haunted and chased by her own nightmares. So yeah, I feel like it's her ability to move smoothly in the world and kind of keeping a sense of togetherness.
Dreams and nightmares that I create and which I must control.
We will be finally able to see the adaptation of The Sandman on TV, and I must say this adaptation is even more inclusive than the comics themselves because all the characters point to inclusion. Neil, what do you think it was necessary to expand on that aspect in this adaptation of The Sandman?
Well, for me, the biggest thing that it did was allow us to look at even more talented actors than we would have had if we'd just stuck to what was in the comics originally. And we'd look at characters in there. We would go, okay, is there any reason why this character, we've got the librarian. in the Castle of Dreams, is there any reason why Lucien needs to be male and white as Lucien was in the original comics? And the answer came back to us, well, no, Lucien can be anything, which allowed us in the audition process to go and look at lots of people, lots of different skin colors, different genders, and then Viv came in and she was our Lucien. It was really interesting. It was.
We summon you together!
Now, Vanessa, your character is one of the most enigmatic because of the connection with the Sandman. What was the thing that most caught your attention about playing Rose Walker on the screen?
Probably just her being, like, the thing that caught my attention was her powers, the powers that she's not technically supposed to have. It was just her being, you know, the vortex, and how the destruction and chaos that follows that, you know. I mean, obviously, she's not really wanted by the end of it. But I think it was, that was a really, you know, attention-grabbing thing about her.
I give you the blood from my veins.
Now, this adaptation is even more inclusive than the comic because all of the characters. What do you think, ladies, this is important in 2022?
It's important on so many different levels. Forget like the outside world and the cast, just the mood it's creating on set as actors. When you're faced in this world and the universe that it creates, we all feel safe. We're safe as women, we're safe as people to explore our emotions, our voices are heard, it's a collaborative environment. So it gives room for you to create art, which you have to be vulnerable to create, but it makes you feel safe about it.
Nightmares no longer seem to recognize their monster.
Now, guys, what do you think is the best and the worst of the existence of dreams and nightmares in real life?
Wow, that is fantastic.
Well, I mean, I think that the titles alone, like, you know, articulate the best and the worst. Your dreams are what's extraordinary about them is I think that sometimes when we're awake, we're not brilliant at understanding all of ourselves. We have to focus our minds on particular things to survive. And when you dream, there are parts of your subconscious reveals itself, and there are parts of who you are that have a freedom to express themselves that I think is beautiful and strange and peculiar and important. And equally, your nightmares have the capability of showing you the very worst of yourself and the pinnacle of your fear. And no matter who you are, if it really is a nightmare, that should in some way destroy you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.